Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Heartland Mamas. I'm Marie Briel.
And I'm Heidi Henry, coming to you from two separate studios at the edge of the Great Red Divide. For every Tuesdays and Thursdays, we bring you progressive news that you can use and our own views that you can also find on previous episodes at heartlandmamas.com, on all podcast platforms, and probably part of the Demcast USA network. And if you want to watch us in person,
Which were
you can do
hilarious. I'm just going to tell you, the facial expressions we make were pretty darn funny. So please
yeah.
check out YouTube. You can watch our past episodes on Facebook. But the most important thing you can do, because we are just adorable, is to like, subscribe, and share to us.
Share.
Share.
You know, and Murray, people keep asking me, what are you going to do now that it's a new dawn and a new day in America? And I'm like, oh,
Heidi, I want to address that. We've talked about this, and for those of you who might be newer to our show, the genesis was that Heidi and I felt as if so many places in the nation were overlooked for stereotypes or the heartland could never be blue, and because we are from the heartland, we really struggled and got
yeah,
frustrated, and then we got frustrated with the media portraying things that weren't actually true. And we
yep,
still have that reality going on. So we have a lot of work to do. And now
yep.
we don't have to, Heidi, I was thinking one of the best parts about now not having Tangerine Toddler in the White House is that we can plan a story and actually do the story. I think, Heidi,
How
we
much?
have probably 15 full stories, interviews that we had to shelf because
Right.
of emerging things.
At the
So I
last
think
minute.
it's going to be nice.
It's so hard to change gears at the last minute because I'll do 6 to 8 hours of study before each show.
Hmm.
And I'll start like right after we wrap one, I'll start to study for the next one. But with 45, we had constant breaking news stories, constant. And
And it wasn't
I
like
think,
he wore a
my daughter
tan
was
suit. It was like he set the world on fire again. So,
like, Murray, every damn day, I'd be like, I'd go to sleep and I'd wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and go, nuclear codes. And worry about the world that we're leaving, not just for the world that we're living in, but the world that we're leaving for future generations. This 4 years has been detrimental to our planet, to our society, to our democracy.
and
It's
it's
been,
and that's
it's
another episode for another day. But we do need to
right.
address
We'll do that another day.
how it has changed the landscape of everything, and we're
Yeah,
going to be doing several
yeah.
episodes on the
The
fairness
survivors.
doctrine, on Section
Yeah.
230, on First Amendment, freedom of speech. We're going to be delving into those things because it's sort of Heidi and I's wheelhouse: politics, policy, and media. So, politics, policy, and press. So, but we
And we're
do
going to
want.
have some more gun safety 2A discussions, and I know those are the hard discussions. I don't know if I need to bring my rifle in that I shot at the fox one time on air. So
She did. On air, she ran out, picked up her gun, and I had to cover while Heidi was shooting the foxes. It was pretty funny.
I
But
missed them.
today we
I don't usually miss.
started a new day. I'll tell you, I woke up happy. I woke up lighter. I slept good for the first time.
Yeah,
We
that's
have
good.
now a new president, Joseph Robinette Biden the second,
I love that name,
and
Robinette.
I do too,
Hmm.
and Kamala Del Harris. How amazing! I couldn't be happier. Yesterday was beautiful. The inauguration was fantastic. I
Oh my
think everything
gosh.
should be done virtual because it actually felt like you were a part of it.
It did. The fireworks, instead of watching some stuffy ball last night, watching all the performances come through and the fireworks, it was so
The
incredible.
only thing
I
that
really
would
felt
have
part of it,
the only thing that would have made it better would have been if the COVID pandemic would have been at least somewhat controlled so that we could have all partied together for 4 years of
Yeah.
battling the orange monster. Yeah.
Well, I love that he took a break and signed some executive orders and got some things going for the COVID pandemic, because that is the crushing issue of our time, of this immediate time. COVID is the crushing issue. And I wanted that. I saw an interview with Dr. Fauci today. It was so nice to see him ungagged, just out there talking. And we rejoined the World Health Organization. I was like, yes, we need to do
Uh-huh.
that. And that our country is now committed not only to controlling this deadly pandemic within our country, but around the world. That we've put our commitment to good health for everyone back out there for the
And
world to see.
Heidi,
We've
you're
taken
spot
leadership
on.
again.
We did a show almost a year ago, a little
Oh
under a year
God,
ago,
Marie.
called a globe-trotting virus. And
Yeah.
we talked about the affluency of COVID and how the rich people going to their resorts and small areas
Ooh.
is what was spreading it. And we're going to
Yes.
talk today about how that is continuing, about it being a disease of affluency and what potential we are going to have to face as we move forward
Yeah.
from manufacturers being able to sell batches of the vaccine
To
to
the wealthy.
corporations to
Yeah.
any number of other issues. And, Heidi, you're right. Joe Biden came there to work. And it
Yeah.
was kind of freaking awesome. And he signed 10 executive orders,
Yes.
all involving the COVID pandemic. And these are things
Well,
that should have been done long ago.
yeah. There's a real initiative to, because he found out that there was no, number one, we found out a couple weeks ago that there's no vaccine reserve that Trump kept touting that he said existed, which never existed. Never. And he also never left a plan. He kept touting the plan for the rollout of the vaccine, and Trump left nothing. There was nothing. So they actually have to start this vaccine rollout, which is now just, it's like they're throwing water balloons filled with vaccine to the different states and saying, here, catch and do whatever you want with them. And instead, uh, they're putting a cohesive plan together with guidelines and parameters that will help. So I hear your dogs, Marie.
Yeah, yeah, we were doing so well, and then
Yeah.
it failed. My dogs are very excited about COVID vaccines. They are delighted that Donald Trump is no longer in the White House, so they're pretty happy about that. They got excited when they heard us talking about COVID.
And usually it's my dogs barking
I
at
know,
something outside because I live on a farm
I know.
complete with farm dogs. And usually it's mine, and you can kind of hear them through the soundproof booth barking at something. Somebody drove by. You have to know this. But
Right.
when Joe Biden got in, and of course the communication between 45 going out and 46 coming in was nearly non-existent. But we're going to have a show about what's going on at the Pentagon because foreign policy. Luckily, we've got elected a foreign policy expert, but there's nothing. There's nothing. I don't know what the note that he left in the drawer was. It was probably A, B,
It was
C,
written in
D. I can't
Sharpie.
imagine it was
It
anything.
had to have been written in Sharpie.
Pretty
I think he
Sharpie.
just tried to draw a middle finger. It's probably a third grade attempt at a middle finger. And he's like, I'm the
That could be.
bigliest. Yeah, I can just see it. Or it's non-coherent because he
Probably.
thought he was trying to be
It's a
important
dick
and leave
pic.
this deep message for future generations, and it's probably like, I like cats and Sharpies. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty
It's
sure
just
that's
a
what it
dick pic.
was.
Hand drawn. So,
But
but
aside from that, we need to get
in
back on our topic. And
well,
I,
and so here was the other thing that Biden was talking about is getting the kids back to school, because without this cohesive plan, we've had no ability to get our kids safely back to school. So I love the fact that he is really laser focused, not on the economy and getting the economy back open, but getting the kids back to school. The economy is important, but part of the economy problem is working parents that can't work because their kids are either in school, out of school, have COVID, have been exposed to COVID, can't go to school. So the fact that he's focusing on getting the kids back in school safely with a cohesive plan
well, and
was
that's just it.
amazing to hear today.
We talk about a plan, and that's what these 10 executive orders were about. One executive order was the Defense Production Act, and utilizing
Right.
it to, we know it was enacted, but I don't know if it was ever actually
Yeah,
utilized
they made a
back
bunch of
in.
ventilators that don't work.
Right. Okay, so
Just
that didn't work out real well. But they're
the
using
whole
it
time I screwed
for
that up.
testing, for testing supplies, for vaccination supplies, for everything
Right.
that goes along with actually caring
Hmm.
for this disease, diagnosing it, preventing it. So I thought that that is something that we've talked about should be forever because believe it or not, there's still a huge testing gap. We are still
Huge.
lacking behind so severely in testing. And then Heidi,
Right.
you mentioned the schools, and he
Hmm.
has issued the schools to fall under the Department of Health and Human Services.
Right.
So it'll now be under a competent leader. He is working with the CDC to retain information on how the disease spreads and tracking that
Right.
in schools. He has authorized schools and municipalities to use FEMA dollars to prepare schools to be safe to send our kids back, to be safe for our teachers. One of his executive orders was saying that 100 vaccination sites will be set up across the United States and that they will be done with National Guard, and this government, the federal government, will pay for all of that, down to the swabs, down to the alcohol pads.
Awesome. Just
Exactly.
awesome. It's
These are,
amazing.
and
Grown up
this,
plan?
what? What? Are you kidding?
What?
Wait, wait. Okay, so he has, and then another part of his executive order, another executive order was dedicating a team to researching treatments for COVID. Because one of
Right.
the concerns is that these new emerging mutations are a little surprising that they're mutating
Yeah.
so quickly and there are so many of them. And so far, they've been pretty
Mhm.
harmless. But we see that
Well,
this South African virus is, we've talked about this before. I have a very strong feeling does not have much, the vaccine doesn't have much efficacy against
no.
because of the spike in protein in the receptors where they are.
Right.
So we know that there's gonna be viruses because of the uncontrolled spread. The virus has mutated and it's gonna
Yeah.
continue. So we need a treatment,
Viruses
and
do.
he's investing in treatments as well as expanding access and care.
And
He has
Murray, he's investing in or touting treatments or investing in treatments without saying, I'm invested in this treatment, please buy it. Such a different way of
Heidi.
doing things.
That needs I need to clip that, and we need to use that as a promo because that's brilliant. I'm invested, not investing. I'm not making a profit off of this. That's a new one.
So
But the other executive
refreshing.
order that I was really excited to see, because you and I've done
Mhm.
many shows on this, is the executive order from OSHA demanding that OSHA put together comprehensive,
Yeah.
understandable, implementable ways for businesses to keep their employees safe, and not just regulation and plans, but also
Mhm.
it gives it the teeth to provide enforcement. So, losing your license, being fined, it's forcing employers to be responsible. And we know the Republicans aren't going to like that because they certainly didn't like
No.
the you can't sue your employer for getting COVID thing. How do you think they're going to like the whole you got to obey the government to not get
Well,
COVID
you've got to
thing?
be responsible. I mean, we've had 4 years of corporate irresponsibility, and we're playing catch up on that. We will be playing catch up on what happened in our meat packing plants for 2 to 3 more years because of so many people that had got infected, and the fact that especially this virus that's coming out of China. There's another strain that came out of China that's really sticky that came in on ice cream. And it's not supposed to be able to transfer that way,
Right,
but it came in that
right.
way.
I did
And
see that as well. That was a
well,
little unnerving.
that's
Just a
that's what
little.
happens when you have uncontrolled spread.
It
And
allows the virus to mutate at a much faster rate.
viruses mutate. That's what viruses do. But to mutate, anything tries to get stronger so that it can live longer, including a virus. And that's what they're doing is trying to, well, the early viruses couldn't survive on hard surfaces, or if they could survive, they weren't transmissible. They wouldn't make people sick. Now we're finding that this new stickier one with different proteins is living on ice cream. That's scary.
Especially
I
since
love
that's
ice
cold.
cream. Yeah, very,
Yeah.
very. scary. So, um,
One of the things that he also has done is put forth a $1.9 trillion economic stimulus package. Is that the right number? My brain
yeah,
just
yeah,
flaked. Okay,
I,
good.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
$1.9 trillion package. And in that package is affirmation for the executive orders that he has done, increase in amount of funding given to state and local governments.
right.
It is ramping up of testing capabilities all over.
Yep.
Research, equality. He created a branch of the COVID response that is
Mhm.
headed by an amazing woman, and her name is escaping me right now, and I'm so sorry.
I
And it
think
is her responsibility to monitor and have a team to make sure that vaccines are being equitably distributed,
right.
that care is being equitably distributed. And if we look at Texas, you know, Biden coming in
Ugh,
right now is more important than ever. We talk about
ever, right.
hyper partisan local politics. Well, Texas just put a bill in front, or just sued the county Dallas. What county is Dallas in?
I I don't know.
I'm sorry, I can't
I
remember
don't
the
know.
county that Dallas
Yeah.
is in, but the county that Dallas is in, sorry, Texas friends, they just sued that county so that they wouldn't be able to dispense the vaccine the way that they saw fit. So Texas passed off all of their responsibilities to their counties, as most states did. Most states can't do it on a grand scale. That's why we need a federal collaborated effort. And so, but the Texas Senate decided that it was wrong. So they've been hands off. You do what you want, you do what you want, you do what you want. And all of a sudden they said, yeah, but you can't give it to poor people. You can't give it to black people. We don't want black people getting the vaccine ahead of white people. Literally, that's what just happened in Texas. So one of his
Come
executive
on,
orders
Texas.
was to be sure that there is no disparity, that those areas that are hardest hit by the virus, whether it is because of race or whether it is
Hmm.
because of socioeconomic situation, are the ones that get the vaccine first.
Right.
So, I mean, it is imperative that we had him come in and take over power. I can't
Well,
imagine.
we talked about the globetrotting virus, okay, and how it keeps globetrotting by the uber wealthy who keep dragging these different strains around because they can afford to go to these exotic places where it's mutated differently than it has in our little microcosm, and then they bring it back, and then it, trots around the country. But what happens, Murray, is it hits the poorest people of color first and hardest. And that shows our very fragile, very ineffective, very unequal healthcare system. We know from our 1 year of doing this that if you're poor and you get COVID 19 and you're black, brown, not white, you're going to be sicker, you're going to be sicker longer, and you're more likely to die.
And it's
So
even,
this
Heidi,
the
you are so perfectly right there. I want to just everyone please listen to what Heidi just said. Heidi just explained why there is such a disparity in healthcare because of socioeconomic areas,
yeah,
where you are geographically. Yes, there are all of those concerns, but you also have to remember that with COVID, throw on top of it the systemic racism of the medical institution
right,
against people of color,
right,
and you have a disaster waiting to happen. The Biden administration has to prioritize the communities that are being hit hardest just for spread factor, and two, because they're the ones most likely to not be believed, not be treated in just general medical practice. So Heidi, you're brilliant to point that out. That was great.
well, I don't, the thing that one of the stories that I read coming out of New York early on is people returned from these overseas trips, brought it back, and it was the people that cleaned their houses, that cooked their food, that served them in restaurants, that served their drinks, that drove cars for them, that cleaned their cars, that did all these things for them, that got sick, really sick, and died in exponential numbers because they brought it home to their families and infected entire families. And there was no way to stop it, and we didn't know anything about it. We had the previous administration had defunded uh, uh, disease research outside of the United States, in China especially. And this was Murray saw this coming in December 2019. She said, "It's coming, it's coming." I'm like, nah, we'll get on top of it, because that's what we do as the United States. We get on top of stuff, and we take care of it not only for our country but for the rest of the world. We take that
Well,
leadership
we
role very
used to, and
seriously.
now we're doing it again.
And
Yay!
we abdicated
For 4 years.
property, that, yeah, that one little bit of maybe exceptionalism that we can maybe fulfill, because we're not really exceptional, but we were really good at that, and we really weren't this time. And it caused millions of lives around the globe. It will cause, before this is over, Murray, I'm going to say we're going to go over 1 million deaths. I mean, we went from 300,000 in about a year, adding another 100,000 in less than a month. We will
Yeah.
add another 100,000 deaths in less than 3 weeks. That will take us from 300,000 to 400,000 to 500,000, really before the end of
Vaccine
this
plans
month.
can even start to begin getting
Yeah,
underway.
and with no plan, no backstock, no way. We have 40,000 people in Florida that didn't show up for their second vaccine, Marie, without any guidelines from the federal government, which has been this open-ended, ridiculous abdication of responsibility by the previous administration. We're
Yes, and how
lost.
the hell the previous administration does not even have a fair concept of how many vaccines they have contracted, where they are, if they've
No.
used them or not. There's no auditing.
Well, there's no auditing, and then
It's
all of a sudden
bananas.
there's still a story floating around that there's like 200,000 vials of vaccine that are just missing. We don't know if they were sold by the previous administration. We don't know if they were rolled out in a different manner, if they were rolled out to people who they felt were more
They're idiots. They probably
worthy.
thought they had more than they did. The incompetence is just it's stunning. It is
You know,
stunning, the
it
incompetence.
it'll be, if I'm lucky enough to ever have grandchildren, it'll be their children that'll finally find out what really happened the last 4 years. It just But I look at this and I think we have some real plans in place. We have a real adult at the helm. We
A
have
grown up.
a grown up. We have Dr. Fauci, steering the ship now
Science
for
in
science.
his executive order signing today. He said, I want to reiterate and make this clear
Yeah.
that everything will be done based on science and
Science.
research. And I was like, you mean that's not a bad word? What is the science thing you speak of? I thought the sunny thing in the sky threw down raisins that I got to eat. What is science? You
I
mean
It was so hard to watch this all unfold and know that people were going to die from incompetence.
Well, it was really hard to watch this all unfold and know that first graders who have basic health and they teach them about hygiene would have
Washing your
figured
hands.
out
Yeah.
to distance if somebody has a cold. But I think it took the last administration 3 years to figure that out. I don't know. I can't.
I
But
it was
we're talking
terrible.
about New Day, and
New
there are
dawn,
going to
new
be lots
day.
of bumps in the road, and we're going to have issues and stumbling blocks as we go. But
Yeah.
I do think that we are at least beginning to start somewhere with this, with the virus response. And
Yeah.
I feel much more confident having an adult in the room who believes in science
I
than
do
I did
too.
having, shove a light up your ass and get cured of COVID.
Oh my God. Or inject some bleach. I mean, I just, the stupidity, the grand level of stupidity was difficult to watch. And it's difficult to watch that people became so partisan over it, Marie, because a virus is never partisan. It doesn't care. It doesn't care.
I just
A
don't
virus is
understand
an
how a
opportunist.
doctor can say, like Rand Paul, that the
Is he a
vaccine.
doctor?
Yeah, he's a doctor. that
Isn't
COVID is no big deal and
that
you
a waste
don't
of
need to
time?
wear, I know, right? That you don't need to wear a mask. And that's just, if you're a cancer patient or immunocompromised, they tell you to wear a mask so that you
Yeah.
may not catch a cold or a virus of some sort or gastrointestinalitis or what. I'm not a doctor, and you can tell I don't play one on TV, right? So, we that's common sense. When children are in preschool, we teach them to cover their mouths when they cough. We teach them to turn
Or cough into
away,
your
to
elbow.
use a Kleenex, to
Yeah.
cover when they. Yet, we're going to deny that logic from a 74-year-old man. I don't know. It always boggled me, girl.
It was hard to watch, and it was really hard to watch
Well, it's hard to watch
my
people
state
die.
senator. Well, yes, very hard. We have a mess at nursing homes across the United States because some of them are going to fall into the philosophy of the president's political party, and some of them are going to be shamed for their dedication to science and medical practices. And that's why people are dying, because you can't shame a virus. You can't call a virus because you just don't want to believe in it because it's going to affect your economy somehow.
Wait, you
And
mean you mean I can't just pretend a virus will go away and it will? I didn't learn that in health class, Heidi. Tell me the truth.
I I was raised by an RN. Jeez, you know.
Come on now,
So,
girl. Don't
yeah,
be
well,
hanging my chain.
I was just appalled by the lack of response, but so thrilled by the plans that have been laid out. I love the plan to get
I'm really excited
people.
about OSHA.
Yeah, I'm really excited about OSHA. I'm super excited about a cohesive plan that'll help get our kids safely back in school and keep them in school and keep our teachers safe and our school secretaries safe and our janitors safe and everybody else that works there safe. I love those ideas, and I'm so thrilled that somebody's finally putting the education of our kids first. I, I teach horseback riding lessons, as I've talked about a million times. Some days I'll have kids from 10 different school systems in my barn. Not all at the same time. They come in, one at a time. And each one of them is in a school district that's doing something different than the one right next door to it.
Mm-hmm.
I it's I can't imagine as a parent trying to plan. I can't imagine as a child trying to deal. I can't imagine as, and the thing is there are school systems, one of the ones my kids went to, the grade school my kids went to, purely political. Don't believe in the virus because it's a Democratic virus. The Democrats are making a big deal about it. We don't care if the kids wear masks in school. They've lost staff over this, and watching them behave, and they have an opening on their school board, but they don't want any Democrats stepping up. I'm like, what is wrong with you people?
And Heidi, as we exit, that will be a show that we will do sometime in the very near future. We
Yeah.
are going to do a show talking about the radicalization of right wing politics at the local and state level. It
Oh
is
yeah.
something that has become dangerous. We see our
Very.
congressmen swing at each other and take these shots, but they walk out, and most of the time, except unless you try your side tried to kill the other side, they're still
Yeah,
able to have
literally.
dinner together, coffee together, discuss ideas. But
Yeah.
people don't see that secondary part of it. And that
No.
secondary part of it has gone away. And it is filtered down to our local and state levels to an insidious level. And that's a big concern. So
Insidious.
we'll be doing that over the next couple of weeks. Look for that episode coming out.
Yeah, coming up. Now that we can plan ahead.
Yes. So thank you guys for tuning in today. We hope we helped you understand a little bit about what was going on with
Yeah.
the first day of number 46 with his COVID plan and how it is starkly different from what we just experienced.
Yep.
But please, guys, tune in on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3 o'clock. We're
Yep.
live. And if you want to catch all of our previous episodes, you can do that here, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, Demcast USA, and Heartland Mamas.
MAMAS.com. We'll see you later, everybody. See you next Tuesday. Take care now.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys. Enjoy your weekend.
Yes.